Yeah, I looked at our schedule. At least we don't have to worry about anyone from the NFC East. Yeah, I'm sure there'll be free wins for a long time. Huh? 2022? What's going on? The New York Giants. Okay. No way. Well, at least we got the football team. I mean, they can't even think of a name. How are they even going to beat us? Commanders. Oh my. See, this is why I hate commies. Huh, at least we'll get our free win of the Cowboys, right? Oh, Lord! Well, at least those stinky Eagles are still wannabes after that 2018 Super Bowl. I mean, that was just a miracle. Yeah, the Eagles. Let's see. No! No way! That's where I draw the line. How? Why? Who is responsible for this?
Hurts on the move.
Who?
Still running. Jalen Hurts is it in for the touchdown.
I gotta tell the others. This man is an absolute menace! Jalen Hurts is his name. Not gonna lie, I did not see myself making this video. I was gonna make a Terry McLennan video since he just got done fathering one of my favorite players that I just got done talking about a few weeks ago. But after that Steelers blowout, I think it's time we talk about this absolute dog. From playing at Texas in high school, to college in Alabama, to Oklahoma, to getting into the pros of the Eagles. This homie just seems to pick up steam wherever he goes. Yet, throughout even his most notable of successes, he's had some real bumps in the road, with a lot of haters to follow. But I would not give him this title if he failed at those points. So you know the drill. Do not forget to like and subscribe. Now let's dive into this Menace's background to see his story, stats, and his own self, and see how he's gotten to where he has and the success he brings. Let's get it! Based on his birthplace, which was Texas, that right there should already tell you what he would athletically be interested in, which was football. Because if you were born in Texas, there are 3 things that I'm certain about you. 1, you are a God-fearing civilian. 2, you love steak almost as much as you love guns. And 3, most importantly, your entire community operates around football. High school football. And Jalen Hurts was no different. Besides the guns, I think. Not too hard to see why he loved football, because even outside of that weird, almost creepy obsession with Texas loving high school football, his dad was the head coach of the team throughout Jalen's whole high school career, which the name of this school was Channel View High School. Now, unlike most of the GOATs I've covered, Jalen did not start right away in high school. In fact, he did not play his freshman or sophomore year at all. But do not let that fool you. Jalen's dad was simply brewing up a 6'3", 212-pound, absolute demolition machine and a savior of his team. In junior year, he was ready to be set loose. And when he did get on that field, Jalen was absolutely sensational. Some might even call a menace. See what I did there because of the title? Man, I am the best. He seriously went off. His junior year, he racked up almost 2,000 yards passing, with 15 passing touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. And did you notice how I said passing? Just passing? Well, if you did, good catch, because my man was a dual threat. This dude stuck true to his name and put the hurt on people with his feet, where he rushed for 806 yards throughout the entire season, which equated to around 100 yards per game, and got 17 rushing touchdowns on the season. And then senior year was literally no different. Oh wait, just besides more passing touchdowns, which went from 15 to 18, and 100 more rushing yards, which went from 806 to 941. This dude was electrifying to watch, and collected all sorts of accolades, which in Texas style gave him a f***ing plaque for winning Player of the Week, which he did multiple times. Man, that's gotta be annoying. Plus, even though he never led his team to anything crazy like a state championship, which you can't necessarily blame him when you got teams like North Shore cucking ya, he did lead his team to a playoff berth, which they did not get in over 22 years. which is almost the amount of time that my dad went to go get milk. Anyways, yeah, the team was kinda stinky, which is probably why he was so fast to graduate college and get out of there. I'm kidding. But he was planning on leaving early for college. The problem was which one to choose. You see, when you accumulate 5,270 total yards and 342 points in just a 2-year career and are classified as a dual threat, many schools want you. Even though he was a shocking 4-star instead of 5-star recruit, many schools still wanted him. And I'm not just talking trash schools like Minnesota or Purdue, even though they did want him. Badgers for life! But actually good teams like Oregon State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Texas A&M. Yet, sadly, we all know where he would eventually go. In 2016, he joined the evil empire of the Alabama Crimson Tide and served under the Sith Lord, Nick Saban. And Jalen wasted no time and got straight to work, graduating early in December to play in the 2016 Alabama campaign. Jalen Hurts' freshman year had Nick Saban and company excited. And since the previous QB, Jack Coker, which is 1C away from getting me demonetized, just graduated and ended his career on a national championship, it was Jalen's time to start for the Alabama Crimson Tide and take up the mantle and keep that tide rolling, which he did. Dude did crazy good and utilized one of, if not the best team in college football to conjure up almost 3,000 passing yards, 23 passing touchdowns, and sticking true to Jalen's strength, the offensive scheme worked with his rushing capabilities, where he capped off 13 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, pretty much mollywopped every team they played. I guess it helps when your QB isn't a white, immobile, chubby man who doesn't look like he could do a single sit-up. I'm kidding. But seriously, this dude was the real deal. I mean, just his freshman year, he won SEC Offensive Player of the Year, number 2 in passing completions for the SEC, and number 3 in touchdowns and total yards for the SEC. Yeah, crazy stats. And obviously the hype was built, yet there was one glaring problem, which was his throwing. Many criticized his accuracy and how he seemed to heavily favor running, and with 9 glaring interceptions that season, it could be easy to understand that worry. And it seemed whenever he was shut down in the run option and was forced to just pass, well, he choked. Still, in Bama fashion, they managed to make it into the 2017 National Championship and played against the Clemson Tigers. Our favorite man, Deshaun Watson, must have got a couple extra massages that day because they scored more on that Bama defense than any other team managed to that whole season besides one game, scoring 35 points and beating them in a thrilling last-second conclusion. And as for Jalen, he did not have a bad game, but not a very good one either, throwing and rushing for only 1 touchdown, and leaving his QB rating at an 88.1, which was the second lowest rating he got that entire season. Even with his heartbreaking loss, Jalen was still praised for his promise and success throughout the season and was named True Freshman, which hadn't happened since 1984 for a Bama QB. Plus, Jalen and Alabama knew they would be back. And sadly for us college football fans, we knew they'd be back too. But nothing could have prepared Jalen for what was about to happen in the upcoming year. In 2017, which was his sophomore year, he stuck to the same shtick. In fact, one could argue he did even better, as he fixed his interception problem with just 1 interception that entire season. I guess he had to talk with Tua's dad. But, speaking of Tua, something far more sinister for Jalen was happening behind the scenes. There was someone looking to replace him. It was a handsome, renegade Hawaiian that came into the picture. His name, Tua Tagovailoa, which I made a video on him if you want to go check it out. Which, if you do watch it, you can see he had incredible stats of his own. Tua played behind Jalen and played a total of 8 games his freshman season and did pretty good, getting 11 touchdowns in the few touches he got. But this is our Hurts episode, so we're going to focus more on him. Jalen and Bama did what they do and rolled tide over the competition, where in one game against Mercer got a 100% completion percentage, 180 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 457.4 passer rating. Yet for some reason, many did not see this piece of brown sugar as the number 1, and quite frankly, requested for Tua. Probably because in that same game against Mercer where Jalen dominated, Tua also threw 3 touchdowns. Pretty much any victory that Jalen had, Tua was right behind him to get some praise as well, often showing his skills in an incredible fashion with the few touches that he got. In fact, it was a huge debate in the Alabama community. Honestly, what a true and sad dilemma for Alabama. It is not fair to expect that they have to decide between two amazing future Heisman candidate quarterbacks. Life can be just so cruel sometimes. Yet these voices to replace Jalen only got louder, and it all came to a head in the last game in the regular season against Auburn. Jalen did not have a good game. He only had one touchdown and completed only 12 out of his 22 attempts, and just barely making it over triple digits for yards. And what made him so unique, which was his impeccable running style, well, he only got 82 yards. And they were livid at the fact that Jalen was not substituted in, which would come into effect later on. Either way, Alabama moved on and did what they do and made it to the national championship again. But this game would leave Hurts hurting, no pun intended, when he completed 3 passes for 21 yards and no points leading into the third quarter. But that was not even close to the most notable part about this game. Believe it or not, he was benched for the Hawaiian savior Tua Tagovailoa, which you kind of have to feel bad for Jalen. At least I do. But this was the big game, and people were already angry for them not putting in Tua in the loss against Auburn. If they didn't put him in during the championship and they lost, I am sure many Alabama siblings would have made out in protest. I mean, which would upset God. I mean, he would flood the world like he did so long ago. You hear that? The Alabama Crimson Tide saved the world from a second flood. They did end up winning that game, but since it wasn't our Menace, we're not going to talk about it because I really don't care. Just kidding. That comeback was iconic. Hashtag Tua's the GOAT. Please make sure to check out that video. It was golden. That next year, I hate to say it, but they kept that same energy that they had for him during the national championship. They were very wishy-washy between Jalen and Tua, but heavily favored Tua, where Jalen at most got 10 passes in a game that season, and Tua started in most games. Once again, this is not to say Alabama was wrong for this. Jalen wasn't a bad QB, but Tua really was just that good. Lucky for the program, though a bit fairly disgruntled, Jalen always had great character and took it with grace, and was always supportive of Tua and the team. But even though many claimed this was maturity speaking, I think he could secretly read the future, and he knew he was about to be that man again. If we fast forward a little bit, when they once again made it to the SEC championship, they got to play Georgia, and Tua was the starter, but this time it wouldn't be for the whole game, where in the fourth quarter he got injured. So in this dire situation, Alabama was unfairly forced to put their top SEC player of the year his freshman year that also broke all kinds of Alabama records in the game. Man, what a terrible predicament for them. Well, lucky for Bama and unfortunate for Georgia, Jalen took Georgia, getting him benched personally, and took an already losing Alabama team and brought them to an iconic victory performance, coming back when they were already down a touchdown late in the fourth quarter, where he threw for 1 touchdown and then sealed the game away by rushing for 1 too. And thanks to Hurts, they sealed themselves a real playoff spot in the college football playoffs. Even with that victory, they still didn't play him in the 2 games after. Well, he did participate a little against Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl, but that was just so Alabama could say they played him. And then they did another time put him in when they were getting dog-walked by the Clemson Tigers in the national championship against a very, dare I say, beautiful Trevor Lawrence, which in that game he couldn't really do much. So when they realized that he couldn't pull miracles right out of his ass, they took him out. His senior year, which was the 2019 campaign, in a decision that shocked nobody, he decided to transfer to Oklahoma. It didn't take a rocket scientist to understand why Jalen decided to leave. Alabama was pretty set on Tua, and he knew from last year that they already made their choice, and Jalen was not going to stick around and sit bench. He needed to solidify himself a good draft pick. And I'm telling you, this man treated Alabama like it was his ex and she just cheated on him. My man went on a revenge tour, where in the season opener he threw for 3 touchdowns, rushed for 3 touchdowns, and ended up with 332 passing yards and a 251.3 passer rating. This dude This Menace scored at least 3 touchdowns or more, whether it be throwing, rushing, or both, in every game he played. And he also won every game besides the one upset against Kansas, and another in the Peach Bowl against the future national champions, the LSU Tigers, where they did get absolutely manhandled. But, to be fair, they had Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Chad Burrow. Sadly, even though he did not get to play his previous team in the national championship, he still had one hell of a season, racking up 3,851 yards, 32 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. This landed him number 1 in the whole NCAA with passing yards per attempt, number 2 in the Big 12 for passing yards, number 1 in the Big 12 for total touchdowns, number 1 in passing completion percentage, and number 2 in rushing yards for QBs in the Big 12, and number 1 in total yards. And just for the cherry on top, was second in voting for the Heisman Trophy, only behind the ultimate mega Chad, Joe Burrow. Dude was, as this title says, a true menace. Now it was time for the 2020 NFL Draft. In a shockingly low pick, he was selected second round 56th overall by the Philadelphia Eagles. And the reaction was pretty mixed.
What the fuck? Jalen Hurts? What?
Okay, it was downright unjust towards Jalen, which I feel like this reaction could come from a combination of criticisms, especially around Jalen's run-heavy style, him being somewhat inaccurate, or the fact that many people were still on the Carson hype train. But either way, the pick was clear, and Jalen was planning on becoming the successor to Carson. And it happened quicker than you would think. Wentz, in typical fashion, fumbled all over himself and was benched the 12th week against the Packers. And then, it was Jalen's time to shine. Even though the game was quite in the bag, he himself had something to prove. And he did pretty okay, throwing 109 yards and 1 touchdown. Was it insane stats? No. But still better than humanitarian lover and supporter of welfare Brett Favre, whose first game, and actually first pass, resulted in a pick 6. There was still more to come that season from Hurts, and he actually won the next game against the Saints, throwing for 167 yards, 1 touchdown. The season itself, though, was honestly a dud for the Eagles, but Hurts did show somewhat potential. In just 6 games, he got 1,061 yards, 6 touchdowns, but a glaring 4 interceptions. So he had plenty to improve on, and still had more to prove to the franchise and the fan base. 2021 did show some improvements, going from 4 wins, 10 losses, and 1 tie, to 8 wins and 7 losses. And Jalen himself did improve as well, but with a few hiccups. You see, his stats overall went up much higher, but I think there are a couple reasons for that. 1, he started the whole season this time, which he didn't last year. And 2, he was a new QB, who also wasn't afraid to play it the Jameis Winston way, and heave it into the air like you're playing a game of 500 and just hope for the best. Which is why he had a pretty average number of just 16 touchdowns, but an ugly 9 interceptions to go along with it. A horrible ratio, which definitely held him back from any talk of being anything great. Also doesn't help that after losses, he compared them to turds that just need to be flushed. But hey, everyone has their way of coping, I guess. Overall, still not a very good season, and it ended even worse when he played against the GOAT, no, not me, Tom Brady, in the stacked Bucs, and ended the game with 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and only 1 touchdown. And they got walloped to a 15-31 loss. So yeah, kind of a stinker of an ending for Jalen. But like I said, he did show some promise. Because as I said, their overall record did improve, along with him rushing for 10 touchdowns, plus getting them to second in their conference. Even though back then a grade of kindergartners could probably run that division, but I digress. It is improvement nonetheless. As you all know, the NFL can be absolutely relentless. You got maybe 3 years to make it count before you get booted, just like Kareem Hunt's girlfriend. So yeah, 2022 was really Jalen's last year to make it count. Which, I shouldn't have to tell you how it's going. I'm not sure exactly what happened or whose soul they sacrificed to up Jalen's skills, but this dude looks completely different. He's like a completely different player. Bro's making a mess out of the NFC East. Bro's making a mess out of the NFC. Out of the NFL. Out of me. I digress. Yeah, this absolutely dominates. I mean, just check out these stats and tell me he's not dominating. He already has 14 passing touchdowns, which, by the way, is 2 away from his previous passing touchdown from last year. Not to mention 7 rushing touchdowns, as well as beating legitimate opponents like Dallas and Minnesota, who have decent defenses this year. Which, if this was last year, Jalen would have crumbled against any decent team. And I don't want to hear the brightest candles burn the fastest. This is the NFL. The NFL don't wait for nobody. People are fighting for millions of dollars every game. They put their all into beating him every week. That is their job. He's just him. And our Menace just doesn't give a f. I mean, look at this game against Pittsburgh. 4 passing touchdowns with a 140 passer rating. This dude seems to be firing on all cylinders. And with help from dudes like Brown, I don't know. As of now, the Eagles have only lost once, and their Project Jalen seems to have paid off. He was always good, but just like dudes like Lamar or Tua, there's always something for people to complain about. Oh, he's a running back. Oh, he throws way too many interceptions. Oh, there's no way he'll carry us anywhere. Oh, he has terrible accuracy. Well, look now, losers. Look now. By the way, I am not a Phillies fan. Honestly, I have no connection to this franchise besides them toppling the evil empire a few years ago. But I am a fan of seeing new and rising stars that will keep this league interesting and prospering. And I think this man, this myth, this Menace will help keep this league running for a long time to come. Hey everyone, thanks for watching my 4th episode ever. Love it if you guys would like and subscribe to keep me motivated and keep me making even more of these episodes. Anyways, thanks for watching. This is the GOAT. Peace.